Hi everyone. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how to handle distractions when we are doing meditation. Now, even before I do that, I want to highlight one very important part, which is sort of easy to say, maybe a little hard to assimilate, but I'll still ask you to remind yourself of this, which is this fact, which is that distraction is a normal thing. Our mind has this habit of trying to seek distraction, especially when we are not doing something which is super engaging. So the point here is that when our mind wanders, when we get a lot of thoughts during meditation, our natural response is to say, I'm doing something wrong. Today, meditation is not working out. I could not meditate properly. It's a natural way of thinking. You feel that, I feel that, but I want to remind you that that's not the right way to think. If mind is wandering a lot, it doesn't mean that we are doing something wrong or the meditation is not proper. All it means is that that's the nature of mind and it takes some time to train. Mind training is not easy, so I would suggest you have to be very patient and kind and persistent so that you can give yourself the opportunity and time to train your mind. But nevertheless, let me give you certain ideas and techniques which can help you in handling these distractions. First thing is, let's say now while meditating, I'm focusing on my breath, and while I'm observing my breath, some thought comes in. I'm still with the breath, I haven't lost track of it, but some other thought pops in. When that happens, our first response is to think, oh my God, like this should not happen. We want that thought to not come again. But remember, it is not possible to prevent thoughts from coming in. So the way to handle it is ignore it. As long as my focus is on the breath, but something else pops in, just remind yourself, this is not the time. Don't pay attention, that thought will come and go. But don't try to suppress it. There is a saying which psychologists are very fond of sort of reminding everyone, which is that you cannot try to, if you try to not think about something particularly, then your mind will think more about it. So let's say if I tell you, don't think about a pink elephant for next 1 minute, try hard not to consciously think about it. Your mind will automatically think about the pink elephant. So first thing is, if some thought comes in, no problem. I'm observing my breath. That thought will come and go. Don't pay attention. Don't worry about it. Don't even try to suppress it. If it comes again, no big deal. You stay with your breath to the extent possible. So this is number one. Number two, when our mind wanders, when you have forgotten about the breath and you are daydreaming, thinking about some incident or some movie or some fantasy or something in future or some random thought. Now the thing is, unlike the previous scenario, we have forgotten the breath. We are no longer with the breath, we have moved away. When that happens, first thing is when we realize that, oh, for last maybe half a minute or 1 minute, I have been thinking about something else. I've been daydreaming, or I've been some thought about my future or some past. Something has come into my head or into my mind. So when that happens, our first response is, oh shit, oh my God. Like this is a sense of frustration, not required. Okay? In fact, it's not even advisable, it's not prudent. You just became aware of a distraction, right? Now we have the opportunity to be mindful about the distraction itself. So think about it this way, even the distraction gives us an opportunity to bring in mindfulness. Maybe not mindfulness of breath, but mindfulness of distraction. That's also fine. So first thing is, when you catch your distraction, don't panic, don't beat yourself, don't feel frustrated, feel good about it. Good because now I am aware of the distraction. Number one. Number two is, once you're aware of the distraction, one suggestion I'll give is, try to make a quick assessment. How much time have I been distracted? Just a quick assessment, just gauge that time. You might say maybe half a minute, maybe 10 seconds, maybe 1 minute. The exact assessment doesn't matter, just make a quick assessment. When you do that, now you are fully aware of the distraction, you're mindful of it completely. Also, there is one added benefit to this gauging the time you have been distracted. Often you find that maybe I've been distracted for half a minute, maybe 10 seconds, maybe a minute. It's not 10 minutes. Not always. It could be, but usually not. So the point is, you realize that, okay, maybe it's not that big a distraction. Maybe it was for some time. No problem. So now you have, first of all, you have become aware of it. Second, you have gauged the time. And then gently let go. Now, before you do that, just one reminder. When I say become aware of the distraction, what it means is, let's say I'm thinking about some picnic I went for or some meeting I had with someone. Sometimes the thoughts are very clear. So just become in your mind, tell yourself, okay, you don't have to verbalize it. Don't say those words, but just, I'm thinking about that meeting. That's fine, no big deal. Sometimes the thoughts might be jumbled up, they're not very clear. There's some random, something very undefined. Don't try to clarify. What was it? Was I thinking about this thing? Doesn't matter. There's some distraction. Just put a label, some distraction. Anything. And then tell yourself, this is not the time. Let go of it. Happily come back to your breath and start the counting. If you're counting, start from 1 again. If you're not counting, just observing your breath, go back to observing your breath. This is the way to handle distractions. Now, there are a couple of things we can do to reduce the tendency of distraction or the duration of distraction. So here are a couple of ideas. First is counting. So we already asked you to do that. So count, and I would recommend count after the out breath is, if you're counting after the out breath, count after the out breath is over, not along with the out breath. So it should be breathe in, breathe out, 1. Should not be breathe in, 1. That's also another way of counting, but my recommendation is follow this. It just takes a little bit of extra effort, so keeps you more alert. Next suggestion I have is just try to observe your breath from beginning to the end. So in breath starts. Okay, now in breath has started. Now it's over. Now out breath has started. Now out, 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 out. Don't say these words out, out. Just observe that breath is flowing in and it's flowing out. And once the in breath starts, think like you are put on a you're put on a watchman duty. Like a watchman has to observe something carefully. Your duty is to observe the breath from the beginning to the very end. Okay. Once it starts, observe it the whole duration. And this, I have personally found this to be extremely effective. Now, one further suggestion, and you can do this later, don't have to do it in the beginning, is just make sure every time you breathe in and breathe out that you're observing the in-breath and out-breath from beginning to end completely. Now, what will happen is, very often you'll find, oh, the in-breath maybe I did not pay attention, out-breath probably I did. The next breath, doesn't matter, in the next breathing cycle, try to observe the in-breath more closely and the out-breath. Keep trying to fine-tune it. Okay. So this is something that I have found to be immensely effective. Even if this doesn't work, you have a lot of thoughts sometimes, or maybe a bunch of thoughts just flowing around, take a few deep breaths. Normally we tell you don't control your breath, but this is one exception. Don't keep taking deep breaths for a very long time, just take maybe a few deep breaths. So I'm having a lot of these random thoughts or distractions, I take one deep breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Maybe take 1 or 2 or 3, as many as a few. And that will force your mind to now come back to the breathing. Now remember, this is just a temporary device to bring your attention back and then go back to your normal breathing, which we ask you to never try to change or modulate. Sometimes you are not able to focus because you're not trying hard enough. Now remember, we are not asked, meditation is in some sense it's supposed to be not super high effort, but we have to have the intention. Sometimes we are half there, half thinking about something. In that case, remind yourself, what is my intention? What's my goal? My goal is to give my complete attention to the meditation activity, in this case observing the breath. So with that resolve, come back again. Now with all of this, all these things also, I want to remind you, none of these things are going to be like a magic bullet. So one expectation we might have is, okay, if I do these things from tomorrow or day after, I started, let's say yesterday, or maybe a couple of days back, now in 2-3 days I should be able to hold my attention, or rather keep my focus on the breath for 10 minutes without a break. It seems easy, it's very, very hard, it takes time. So I'm going to ask you to be very, very patient and kind to yourself. And it is truly important, because if we don't do that, if we start getting frustrated, oh, my mind is not settling down, that agitation will further make it harder. And then we'll feel like this meditation as a practice doesn't work for me, and we'll give up. But if we stick to it, if we are kind, if we allow ourselves to just say, okay, I had distractions, no problem. I'll keep doing it, keep practicing these things, and gradually it'll become better and the distractions will go down over a period of time. Remember, that's why I say meditation, it's a practice. It's not It's not there is no technique, there is no hack. Practice means you do it again and again and again and again. If you have seen people playing violin or guitar or even singers, there is no trick. Nobody can give you a trick and you can learn it in a week and start playing violin. It takes hand-eye coordination, takes a lot of change in your brain. So you have to practice for years. Similarly, in meditation also, it takes time. Give it time, be patient, try out these techniques. I'm sure, I'm confident, with enough time, you will make progress. Just be patient. All good things in life, they take time. Meditation is no exception. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.